Hey, record loving friends, this is Brian from Tokyo Record Style. Today I'm coming to you with an idea that I don't have fully fleshed out in my head yet, but I'm going to try to deconstruct and rebuild and break down and try to tie it all back together here in the end. Talking about music and writing and photography. These are the things that I care about on Tokyo Record Style, and about the hottest topic of our year, of our last couple of seasons, AI. So to set this up, I want to go back to 2021 and to the Get Back Beatles documentary that was put together by Peter Jackson. We all watched the 9-hour documentary and we all loved it and commented on it and, were moved by it. Now, through the Get Back documentary, we all learned a little bit about how AI was used to isolate the various video and audio elements to create a completely new narrative using footage that they couldn't have used previously. And we learned about how they used that same technology to go back to the 1990 recordings of Free as a Bird and Real Love and Now and Then. This was the track that was previously unusable, that they used AI to isolate John's vocal and finally recreate this song. And when this song came out, it caused quite a stir in the music world, and we were all talking about it for weeks and weeks about how it sounded like a Beatles song and it sounded old and it sounded new, and it made waves all around. I made a video about it. I'll link it down in the description. The song itself actually got kind of mixed reviews. Everybody seemed to like it, but they didn't fall head over heels for it like Free as a Bird or Real Love. And it left people scratching their heads a little bit. They said, yeah, it's a good song. But I've been thinking a lot about it this morning because the tone of the song, the overall feeling of the song, the whole minor, major, resolved, unresolved, sort of bittersweet sense of the song really got me thinking this morning. And at the same time that record came out, I remember there were versions of the song that reimagined it as if it had been made by the mid-60s, early 60s Beatles. And I can't recall if those particular versions were made by AI, but I think they were. And then there was another couple of AI-generated Beatles songs that were floating around the web and that sounded really like Beatles songs. They had these, characteristics of Beatles songs that we're so familiar with, and they were generated by AI, and there was this big question mark about, wow, can AI write a Beatles song? It really sort of flummoxed me, and I didn't really know what to make of it. And it was then that the question was posed to me whether or not I could love something that was generated by AI. If I could truly appreciate and connect with emotionally with something that I knew that wasn't made from human experience, human nature. And it was around that time that I declared to myself that if I found out that something that I had fallen in love with turned out to be made by AI, it would soil that love that I would have for it, and I would immediately fall out of love for it. Even if I really was compelled to like it, and even if I thought it was good quality, if I found out that it was made by AI rather than humans, it would merit a decision to distance myself from it. Now, that's not to say that I hate AI or am resisting AI, but in the case of art, I think, and music, I don't see myself appreciating AI-generated art as much as I would ever appreciate art made by real human, authentic experiences. Even if I can appreciate that, creativity goes into prompting AI to create artworks, I still want to believe that human nature and the human experience is what I cherish most. However, without AI, we would not have had the Get Back documentary, nor would we have had this song that came out, Now and Then. So it's this double-sided, bittersweet pill to swallow that damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it got me to thinking that we're really at a crossroads here. And I was reminded of another crossroads in history, a photographic one. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a drunken history of photography, but let me first hip you to the idea of camera obscura. Now, if you don't know about camera obscura, it is the phenomena that has been around for centuries, millennia, where when you are in a dark space with a tiny sliver of light filtering through a hole in the space, an image from whatever is streaming into that hole will appear on the opposite side of the wall. Imagine you're in a medieval castle and you have a studio in the top of the castle and there's one window on the wall and you put black curtains on all the walls and all the surfaces, including over the window and on the ceiling, and you make the room completely pitch black. And then on the curtain that's covering the window, you poke a tiny hole in it. And if you stay in that room for long enough, the image from down across the moat and over the valley and the mountainside on the opposite side of the valley will actually come through that little pinhole inverted because of physics and optics, and will appear inverted on the opposite wall. Faintly, it will appear. This is a camera obscura. The image from across the valley will appear on the black wall because the light has come in and refracted or whatever it does, and it appears on the opposite side of the wall, inverted. That's the nature of optics and physics and light. And what you can do is you can put a canvas on that wall and you can paint that scene. You can trace it. You can trace the scene and paint a beautiful landscape, turn it over and present it to the king. And, that's how you could make realistic paintings in medieval times using camera obscura. So this phenomena actually occurs in nature. You can imagine a cave with a tiny bit of light filtering through a small hole, projecting the forest inverted on the opposite side of the wall. If you leave it there for 1,000 years, the light will leave artifacts of itself on the wall in some way, and it will stay. And so people who were interested in this phenomena of camera obscura and who would build these camera obscuras, whether they be artists or scientists or physicists, they tried to devise ways to actually shorten that amount of time from 1,000 years to a week or a day or a minute. And they were interested in burning that image to the wall. How could they make the image stay? That was the original question of photography, how to make the image stay. And to achieve this, they concocted all manner of chemical recipes, from pastes and paints, and they used eggs and emulsions, and they would paint these walls with different kinds of chemicals to try to collect the light and make it burn onto the image. Because as soon as you open the door and let light flood in, the image just disappears. So how to make the image stay on the canvas. And it was around, I think, the 1860s when a guy from France called Niepce figured out the magic recipe of silver halide something or other, and he painted this emulsion on the wall, and he got the image to stay permanently on the wall. So the first photographers weren't actually artists. They were chemists. They were the people who could concoct these creations and emulsions and paint them onto surfaces, canvases, paper, and knew how to put them through the darkroom process to create images. They were chemists. They weren't necessarily artists. And not only were they chemists, but they were scientists and astronomers who were using the technologies that they had in telescopes and microscopes to create high-resolving lenses that could render scenes very sharp on these emulsions. We actually haven't gained an enormous amount of advancement in the case of optical lenses. We can create really high resolving images with lenses created a very long time ago. So sometimes you look at pictures made from the 1800s and you'll see ridiculously sharp images of landscapes and scenes of the frontiers and, details of people's faces. Sometimes you've seen those tintypes or wet plate collodion prints. Sometimes they're almost too sharp. So our ability to resolve very high quality, sharp images has been around since the dawn of photography. And photography being the very first art form to truthfully render reality begged the question, what exactly should photography be? Should it render reality truthfully as it can? Or could it possibly render reality in a surrealistic or impressionistic way? Question mark. Enter Nicola Parid. Nicola Parid was a very early photographer and artist who was less interested in rendering reality as it was, but in a more impressionistic, surrealistic way. Many old lenses bear his name, Parid. And he was a Dadaist, and he was in cahoots with a lot of interesting people, and he was interested in the potential of photography as a new emerging art form. And 100 years ago, he approached the lens makers of the day and asked them to create him a lens that actually didn't render reality as it was. He was the pioneer of the soft focus lens. He wanted a lens that had characteristics that would actually resolve images in a way that was lo-fi or that could appear more dreamy. So the lens makers came up with the soft focus lens, which bears his name, Nicola Parid. And Parid took his lens and his concepts about photography, and he went all around the world. He did come to Japan, and he left some lenses here. He brought his lenses around, and he taught the art of photography to people all around the world. I ended up scoring this lens on one particular run to a camera shop, a very special day. I'm going to talk about it in another video because I want to also talk about this notion of scoring records and scoring lenses. This one is a 30 centimeters or 300 millimeters. It covers 8x10, and it's on a Cinar board that I custom made for this. So this is quite a special lens, and go look up what they go for on eBay. It's kind of insane. It's actually kind of a hard lens to use, and it's one that makes people appear kind of like I said, in a dreamlike state. So getting back to AI here, one more stop before I return. Last week, I went to an art exhibition. It was a collective called We're Not a Collective. I'll try to leave a link to their show and to their crew in the show notes. And it was a interesting pop-up photo gallery in Shimokitazawa that I just stumbled upon. I walked in without really reading the description of what the show was about, and I just perused the various works. Each artist had a section of the wall, and it was easy to understand which photographs belonged to which artist. There was some architecture and some slice of life and editorial, and there was some black and white, high contrast street photography, and there was a portraiture series. And I really liked all of it, and especially the black and white street photography. It was so well developed, and the tones were so nice on the skin. The contrast was stunning. And when I got to the portrait area, which I really quite like, as you know, from Tokyo Record Style, and it really made an impression on me. And suddenly it dawned on me that it wasn't quite right. And it hit me that it was AI. And it didn't take long and you would have identified it yourself, but it just took me an extra second to be like, oh. And then suddenly I realized, was the entire show AI? And that was the concept of the exhibition, was that some of it was AI generated and some of it wasn't. And what I found out was that the black and white street photography that I really liked, that had this such great tones, was generated by AI. And I remembered this declaration that I had made to myself about dismissing things that I would find out later that were AI. Now, I did genuinely like it. I did genuinely think it was the best work of the lot in a way. But the fact that I got hoodwinked by it, and it was good, it was really good, upset me and soured me and made me contemplative about where exactly we're headed with this. I'm circling back an hour later to mention something about this song and about the feeling and sense and emotion that it conveys, which was spoken about a lot. It's a little bit of a sad song, ? But it has that classic John and Paul major, minor, happy, sad, resolved, and not, up and down at the same time. And how appropriate that the feeling of the song and the title and lyrics and the idea of the song is also possibly a reflection of this very crossroads that we're at. So that's something I picked up from this song. So this is my thought, is that we are at a similar crossroads of art and science that we were at 100 years ago with photography. We came through at the photography crossroads, I think, for the better. And now we have photography that portrays life as it is, and we have photography that portrays life in impressionistic and artistic and surrealist ways. So will we have the same outcomes for AI-generated art? Am I right to resist loving AI works like I love human expression, like I love human nature? Am I wrong to pledge my allegiance to human-made art? Do you agree? Even if I can respect the prompters, something inside me still really wants to hold on to our humanity, and that's where I've gotten today. I didn't really know where we'd end up, but here we are. Let me know what you think in the comments. This was a hard one to make. I didn't really know where I was going, but I'm grateful for the mental exercise. Yeah. I mean, AI did bring us the Get Back series and the new Beatles song, but, how will we get through this next crossroads? I guess I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching and indulging me in another Tokyo Record Style video. If you like, please hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment. Maybe we can get a discussion going down below. And until next time, I'll see you at the record store. Bye.